Welcome to Top 5, a show where we count things down from number 5 all the way to number 1. This week on the show, top 5 games you keep going back to. Top 5 games you keep going back to. Matthew, what's your number 5? What is a game that you keep going back to?
And I have to preface this one because I constantly go back to this particular game. I don't think I've played it since the Clinton administration. I don't recall sitting down to actually play a game of the Champions RPG since at least college, maybe even earlier. I know that we played it incessantly in high school, but I am constantly going back to Champions. Part of it is because Champions has constantly just rebooted and launch vamped and, hey, we're going to do something new now. But it's always fun to go back and see how the three characters who always keep getting rebooted and reset and redone kind of change as things go along, because one of their primary characters is the Defender. The Defender, of course, is a powered armor guy. So if you go through the last 5 editions, you can watch Defender updated to rip off the very, very cutting edge of Iron Man stories, which is always kind of nice. But I don't know if you've ever played Champions. It's very complicated, and it's a very obnoxious game sometimes to play. But they keep dragging me back. I try to get out, and they keep dragging me back in. I want to say the latest edition is the 6th edition, and that's like 15 years old. But all the way back to my days in grade school, they keep dragging me back.
All right, very good. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 5?
Let's see. My number 5 is also a game that I don't get to play very often, and that's Smash Up. You guys remember Smash Up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love Smash Up.
Do I?
So I have a lot of the expansions for Smash Up, and I'm like, oh, this is rad. But then I never play it. And a big part of it is my fault. I just don't ever put in the energy to get because obviously I live with my wife, but to invite 2 other people to come to my house and play Smash Up. I'm sure we have friends who do it, but mostly I just open up the box and look at the cards and I go, oh man, this combo would be awesome.
Uh-huh.
But then I don't play it. So, but I keep going back to it. So Smash Up definitely.
I think they are releasing new Smash Up decks at Gen Con 2025. And I know one of them is an 80s themed one with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, or technically not He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Sure.
But
I like it better when they do that. I don't like it when they actually license something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's now over
this
at
is actually
AEG.
It person.
Yeah, this is over at AEG. So be on the lookout at your LCS or your local gaming store, friendly local gaming store, because new stuff is there and on the way. For me, my number 5 is Red Dead Redemption 2. It is a game that I have a lot of conflict with. I love the graphics. I love the story. I love trying to walk the straight and narrow as a bad guy, and I love hunting down all the little clues. It can be a very relaxing game, but it also has some moments that are very uncomfortable where you, a white guy, need to go and kill a bunch of black people. And that sits very poorly with me. But still, what CD Projekt Red did with Red Dead Redemption 2, and this is a game that's been out for 15 years, something like that, at least 10 years for sure.
It's Rockstar though.
Yeah. I keep going back to it, and I still enjoy it, but it's way down on my number 5 for a reason. Okay, we are moving up to our number 4s. And Matthew, what do you have for your number 4?
I have a similar set of cognitive dissonance for the same reason, from the same creators, with my number 4, Grand Theft Auto 5. Because Grand Theft Auto 5 is absolutely groundbreaking in terms of the big open sandbox games. I mean, there's literally something stupid to do at every turn. And even if you've played 100%, which I have, the game will still hit you with random events, upgrades, things that, oh, well, you can go do this. The thing that actually dragged me back into it the last time was a release of the DeLorean from Back to the Future, or a very, very carefully serial numbers filed off version thereof that literally does fly, and Kit from Knight Rider, which doesn't fly, but you can hit your turbo boost and then you can kind of just glide around for a little bit and then come back down. It's bulletproof. It's entirely matte black. Has a little red thing on the dashboard. Doesn't talk to you, sadly.
I was going to ask.
I really wanted it to. I did. But the thing about Grand Theft Auto 5 is you have a choice of playing one of three characters. One is an old, over-the-hill mafiosa guy who's basically a murderer. One is a very young, kind of idealistic gangbanger who is actually probably the noblest person in the game, at the very least, the most approachable person in the game, because at the end, when the killing starts, he is shooting random people and, killing authority figures and policemen to save his friends, because his friends helped him. They got into trouble. They needed his back. And then, of course, there's Trevor. And every time I play Trevor, you have to be in a certain mindset. You have to either, as I do, kind of disconnect yourself from the Trevor experience, or as some people online do, you really have to just revel in the horror of it all, because there's a famous cut scene where Trevor takes something out of his fridge and starts to eat it, and he throws something aside and spits it out, and it looks like a human ear. And there's a kind of a thread throughout the story. Is Trevor actually eating human flesh? And then you have to realize that that's the story that I'm willing to tell you that Trevor has done. There are horrifying, horrifying things in this game, mostly revolving around Trevor. And it's hard to, go and enjoy the game and be an adult, partially educated, grown up, relatively kind person and still go, woohoo, when you're blowing up airliners and throwing people off of bridges. And it's a thing. So definitely, I keep coming back. I actually have, this is true. I actually have it installed both downstairs, because the PlayStation 3 is downstairs, and upstairs where the PlayStation 4 is. So I can play the game on either of the last two out-of-date generations. You're welcome.
Great. Rodrigo, we're looking at our top 5 games you keep going back to. What is your number 4?
My number 4 is Magic the Gathering.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, it wouldn't have been on this list because I never left it. But eventually I was like, I don't want to play Magic anymore. It was kind of a thing of like just not having a group nearby that I already knew. When I was living in Kansas, the Fort Hayes crew was who I played Magic with. And then when I really, like, a lot of them moved away, and then I moved away. So that definitely didn't help. But I also Magic is owned by Wizards of the Coast, which is owned by Hasbro. And some of the recent decisions that Hasbro has made and that Wizards has made are off-putting. So I kind of, I'm keeping my ear to the ground about Magic, but I'm not playing very much today, or maybe last night. I played for like an hour. And it's nice. There's a new set that's out. It's fun. But I was like, okay, all right, that was good Magic the Gathering session, and I might not play for a couple days maybe. So I'm just kind of like, I'm not as into it as I was before.
Yeah, very cool.
So Hasbro does own Cobra, and that's all I'm going to say.
So years ago, I was sitting around Munchkin Land episode, and Brian was like, hey, there's this game I think we should play. I was like, I don't know. And he's like, it's kind of like a board game that's like an arcade fight 'em up game. I was like, I don't know. And then he kept pushing it for like 6 months, and I kept putting him off. And then finally one day he just showed up and he's like, hey, I know we don't have anything scheduled, so let's play this game called Street Master. And man, I fell in love with it instantly. It's a deck shuffling game where you get to play characters that are very reminiscent of what you would find in a Street Fighter game. And there are some characters that are very reminiscent of actual martial artists. And you take on all sorts of crazy villains and scenarios, and you can mix and match them. They are very interchangeable. And I was hooked instantly, so much so that when our friend Samantha went to Gen Con a few months later, I said, please go to their booth and please buy their entire base game, all of the expansions, whatever. I will pay you. She did it. They arrived at my home a few days later, and I've been following, not Blacklist Games anymore. I think they were bought out a while ago, but then because of tariffs and because of the weird relationship currently with China, the current expansion took a long time for them to deliver, but it finally arrived. And this is a game that I will keep pulling out like every couple of months to sit down and play. There's a lot of bits and pieces and moving parts and things you have to pay attention to, but I love it. Even better is that there is an iOS version of this that you can download, which has it has all the base set characters, but they're slowly expanding out with expansion set characters. So if I've got like 20 minutes to spare, I can just open up my iPad and I can play Street Masters. But that is my number 4 game that I keep going back to. Matthew, what is your number 3 game that you keep going back to?
This one, I wasn't sure exactly how we defined game, so I said to myself, well, okay, this definitely counts. I grew up in the 1970s, and I was raised by a grandmother from the Great Depression. We called her Depression Grandmother, but not because she was raised during the Great Depression. She always had, however, a house full of classic board games. And the one that stuck with me the most, and the one that I honestly wish I could play, even right now, although I can't play the version that we played in the 70s, is The Game of Life, which is Milton Bradley's way of telling you as a child that your dreams are probably too big and you need to scale it down a little bit. But the version of The Game of Life that I grew up with started with you'd grow up, you'd be like, okay, am I going to go to college or am I going to learn a trade? And then you get a little car, and then you could get a spouse, and then you could get some children. They didn't have dogs and cats then, but you would get to the end of the game and you would have a choice. And you could, and this was true, and this is also how old my grandmother was, you could count your money. If you had enough money, if you believed that you had more money than anyone else in the game, you would continue down to Millionaire Acres. If you didn't believe you had enough money, you could spin the wheel, and there was a wheel built into the game, to become a millionaire tycoon. And if you didn't, you would go to the poorhouse, and you would be out of the game, and you would live in the poorhouse. And I always imagined that, you'd be wearing like a barrel with suspenders, like always seemed to happen to Woody Woodpecker and Andy Panda. But it always kind of struck me, even then, I'm 5, 6, 7 years old, how this seems cruel. Either you're the richest or you're just betting everything and hoping that you don't end up completely homeless and poor. And at 7, I said to myself, boy, I sure am glad this isn't realistic. At 53, I just kind of wish I could play the game on a board and not have to do it in real life and all like that. But this is one of those games that really stuck with me. And to this day, I can clearly hear it had a little plastic thing with little aluminum flanges on the wheel. This was like old school. This was 60s stuff. So when you would spin it, the little aluminum flange would go. And a little bit of major spoilers trivia. That's the noise that I used to use when we would spin the wheel of fate to decide the question of the day, as I recall. But neither here nor there. The Game of Life dating back to the early 1900s. I played a version from the 60s. Now it's 2024, and talking about it depresses me, but I would play it right now if it was in front of me.
All right, very good. Rodrigo, what is the number 3 game that you keep going back to?
My number 3 game is a game that I kind of poo-pooed at first. And I was like, oh, everybody's trying to be fancy and do fancy things with our fancy old computers. But then I played it and I really enjoyed it. And just a little bit after I started playing it, or maybe just a little bit before, they came out with a different mode that was kind of a roguelike that I still play every once in a while. I am talking about Inscription. I don't know if you guys have played it.
The Christopher Nolan movie?
No, but it's from the same team that brought you Pony Island, which is kind of a legendary mess with your head kind of game. And Inscription does that. But they added a mode that is that just allows you to play the game straight through, because when you play the game through the story, stuff happens, right? So games are often interrupted, or there's games where like weird stuff happens, or there's games where that are very easy because they're early on, or games where like you get a hint from a character about what you should be doing, because again, they're teaching you the game. So the nice thing is there's a mode called Casey's game, or Casey's mode, Casey's mod, where it's just a progressively harder version of the game, but it's just like straight the game throughout. And the game itself is pretty weird. There's lots of little weird interactions. A lot of the things that if you're a kid and you're playing like Magic or Pokemon, like you wish you could like play a Shelder and play a Slowbro and then smush them, or a Slowpoke and then smush them together into a Slowbro. In Inscription, there are interactions like that. There are interactions where one card does something to another card, or if you get into something where one of your cards is destroyed, if you use a specific card, it has an influence on the rest of the game that you destroyed that card. So there's lots of weird little things to discover in it. And every time you go all the way through, you get new cards to play with. So yeah, if you haven't played Inscription, I strongly recommend it, even just as the one-player story mode. It is pretty weird, and surprising amount of fun.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. My number 3 game, when I got the PlayStation 4, everybody's always talking about Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed. What a fantastic series this Assassin's Creed game is. And so I was like, well, maybe I should get an Assassin's Creed game and check it out myself. The one that came out was Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which was set during the ancient Grecian times. And I said, okay, this is the one I'll get. And I loved it. I love this game so much. Not really great at it, although I used to stream this all the time on Saturdays, and people would join in and see me catch myself on fire all of the time. But, with my build tree, I was getting much better at taking down the bad guys and the assassins roaming around the Greek countryside. And I kind of made a deal with myself when I started the game, was that I am going to go through each zone, and I'm not just going to follow the storyline from beginning to end. I'm going to complete each mission in each of the different zones. And sometimes that was great because I'll be a level 15 in a level 10 zone because of all the experience points that I'm getting. Sometimes you accidentally step into the level 52 zone that is right next to the level 10 zone, and you're brutally beaten very quickly. I still have not completed the game. I think I'm about halfway through at this point, all these years later. And again, it's because I don't get a chance to sit down and play on the PlayStation as much as I used to. But it is a game that I keep going back to again and again and again. It's Assassin's Creed Odyssey. We are ready for our number 2. And Matthew, what do you have for your number 2?
My number 2 is an example of two things. One, how my life has recently changed, and I don't have time to do anything. And two, how that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have fun, because this is a game that I invented last November when I went live in my new job. And it goes like this. I take a call, which I do 70, 80 times a day. If I have to transfer my call, I will then transfer to another representative, and we will introduce ourselves. And I will say, my name is Matthew, my last initial is blah. And I will tell them that my identifier, or my global identifier number, is 19142. If my number is higher, I win. If their number is higher, they win. And I've started telling people this when I transfer calls, because for one thing, it's not a linear progression. We're dealing with multiple branches of the same company, multiple different states and multiple different areas. So there are times when someone who has been there for 25 years has a lower number than me, and I win. I had that happen the other day, and I told her about it, and she was so delighted that she said she was going to start playing the ID game. So I'm hoping that it becomes a thing where everybody, when you transfer a call, will be like, okay, I'm 19142. Oh, good, you win. But it does pass the time really well, especially, since I can't write or think or do anything. And, it's hard to watch television or play video games when you're also trying to answer phones. Not like I used to, but, so times change, you move on, you do your thing. So the ID game, I recommend it. The next time you have to transfer a call, ask them their ID and see if yours is lower.
Okay, interesting. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 2 game?
My number 2 is sorry, I'm still thinking about the ID game.
Yeah, you're just like, yeah, what's my ID?
Well, the issue for me would be like, well, if you just have like a fundamentally low ID, you're gonna lose a lot. Anyway, not to get it's
that's a good question.
Don't start putting money on it, because then people are gonna start like quitting and trying to get rehired to like reset their ID.
Right, and then you come back with that's good.
Yeah. All right. So my number 2, you could say Pokemon generally, but really it's Pokemon Sword and Shield, and to a lesser extent, Scarlet and Violet. And the reason for that is that Pokemon Sword and Shield introduced raids. And in raids, you and 3 other people are trying to all gang up on, in Sword and Shield, a Dynamax or Gigantamax Pokemon, so like a kaiju-sized Pokemon. Or in Scarlet and Violet, you're ganging up on a terastallized Pokemon, so a Pokemon that has gained the powers of another type, or of some, or powered up its own types in some way. Part of the reason why I kept going back to Sword and Shield for so long is that raids are unlike anything else going on in Pokemon. It was a way to play cooperatively with other people, but also, unlike sometimes MMOs or other stuff like that, I didn't need to already have friends who were playing the game to get into these raids. Right? I could just join with like random people, and generally speaking, if everybody's doing their thing, we would win. That's less the case in Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet's raids are generally a lot harder, so we'd get wiped out more. Not that that's a problem. I'm fine with that. Just the playing of it is fun. But also, the raids in Sword and Shield were exploitable, and made it possible to 100%, with 100% certainty, catch a specific shiny Pokemon. So it was during the Sword and Shield era that I really bulked up my collection of shiny Pokemon. I've got a bunch. They're just hanging out in my in their boxes right now. And I would get over it, and then later on I would come back and be like, I feel like doing some Pokemon raids, and like get back into it. It really is the introduction of raids, because even with the possibility of catching them all, I didn't start doing that until probably Sword and Shield, where I was actually like, okay, well, let me call people I know that are playing Pokemon so we can like actually trade these Pokemon that I used to kind of just not care about. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but even with that, that would have been that, right? But with raids, every once in a while, I'm like, well, I got this shiny Pokemon. I want to show it off. And here's
Hmm.
how I can force three strangers to look at my shiny Cat, let's say.
Hmm.
Has 8 lives instead of 9.
No, no. Well, it's like Torr cat. I don't know what Torah cat. Oh, maybe it's like torrent cat. It's a fire type,
Okay.
so maybe that's what the Tor is for. I don't know.
Hmm. I caught a Matzeltov the other day.
Hmm. We'll probably catch one tomorrow.
All right. Very cool, Rodrigo. My number 2 comes from a company called Cool Mini or Not, or Come On. They have licensed characters from Marvel to create this game called Marvel United, which again is a deck shuffling game, but you get to take on any number of Marvel heroes. They've had a billion expansions, and you get to fight like every villain in the Marvel universe. It is a cooperative game with you and your friends where you lay down a card and then the next person lays down a card and they get to play your card plus their card in a combo to, you know, do something. Save people, fight villains, punch the bad guy, clear tokens, whatever. Then the third person plays and then they get to use the card of the second person and their card. And you keep going around and the villains do things. It's really fun. It's really addicting. And I've been buying each of these as they've come out. Now, Cool Mini or Not has gone through some recent financial crises, and there is still some question on whether they're going to deliver their final expansions as promised, which we've all paid for. But Marvel United is a fun game, and if you like the chibi art style, what this game is most famous for, beyond just the fact that the game is fun, is that you get these little chibi miniatures of all of these heroes, and they vary in size. If you're, for example, doing the Fantastic Four expansion and you're using the Invisible Woman, she's got clear plastic. If you've got Johnny Storm, he's got this flame plastic that's going on. That's really cool. Or if you are fighting, for example, Galactus, it's a huge figure that you get, big old giant chunk of plastic, and it's really cool to see these little figures there on the table. And it gives everybody a chance to go through and find their favorite Marvel character or one that they identify with most and get to add them into the game as you team up. Now, depending on how you want to play it, you can just go random. You can just go by, whatever people want. But there is an online file that someone has created. It's an interactive map, basically, that takes you through the Marvel multiverse. And you go through all the different expansions, unlocking heroes and villains and taking them on. And it's a cool way to really build a campaign out of what is essentially a 30-minute sit around the table and have fun with your friends and family kind of game. It's Marvel United. You can still get this at game stores. You may not be able to get all of the expansions, but the base game, I know you can still get at Target, but also at your game stores. Go check it out. It's Marvel United, and it's my number 2 game that I keep going back to. We are now ready for our number 1 games that we keep going back to. And Matthew, what do you have for your number 1?
Surprising no one. My number 1 is once again Diablo 3. It is, other than a Grand Theft Auto title and maybe some of the SmackDown versus Raws in the mid 2010s, it's the game that I've played for the longest. And it's a game that always breaks your heart, like Jack Kirby style, because just this weekend, last weekend, I had a terrible tragedy. My level 70 Paragon hardcore mage, her name was Jess Bell. She died horribly at the hands of a furnace. That's not a joke, an actual furnace lit her on fire and she died. Now, at that point, you may say to yourself, oh, we'll just reset. The problem is, now that I'm playing hardcore mode, which I haven't played for the last 10 years, I've been staying away from it. your deaths are for real. So, like, as Freddy Krueger will tell you, if you die in the game, you die for real. So Jess Bell is gone. I've tried to replace her over the last couple of weekends 3 times, and all 3 of those wizards have died well before they get to level 70, which is the point where you start grinding at what's called the Paragon levels. And so until I can get a level 70 wizard back into play and actually have that power level and be able to go and discover new things in the game, I'm kind of at a standstill. And a little part of my brain, and I think it's the same part of my brain that goes, I have to know the home planets of all the Legionnaires. It's like, if you don't have a level 70 wizard, something is wrong. We need to do this. So most weekends, I'll spend an hour or 2 just putting something together, trying to grind the game to where I want it to go. And that doesn't sound fun, but it really is, because it combines all of my favorite things in a game. It combines your resource management. It combines completely random nonsense. It combines the ability to make things explode and burst into flame, and also costume design, because in Diablo 3, you can create and kind of mix and mash and kit bash new armors and new color coordinations. So each new wizard, though they have the same face and the same voice and the same mannerisms, dresses completely different than the one before. And in my head, her personality, and how this character would react. So Jess Bell, of course, was a fire wizard. She's dead. So now I've got a girl who does mostly lightning damage. I don't remember her name, which is probably bad because I'm sure she'll die. But here's the thing. It feels like a completely different game because of the randomization of the elements, what spells I'm into, what characters I'm hitting, what magical items randomly drop. I won't say infinitely playable, because there are points where they're, especially in story mode, there are just, why do I have to do this again? But they are rare. And there are times when I'll literally be playing this game for the 50th, 70th time and go, I don't remember that happening ever before. And then it's all a whole new game. So it's probably the best $65.99 that my family ever spent 3 or 5 or 10 Christmases ago. Diablo 3, play it, you'll love it.
Yeah, pour one out for the dead wizard.
That's right.
Let's see. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 1?
My number 1, definitely my number 1 right now, is Monster Hunter Wilds. I got it pretty much right when it came out, and it has been months, and I'm still playing it, which is kind of unheard of for me. There are very few games that will hold my attention that long. And one game that was almost on this list is kind of like, it shows the pattern. That game is Mortal Kombat 11. And to me, the fun of Mortal Kombat 11 was that every character had like 100 different outfits, and also each character had 2 accessory slots that could change. So like I had every hat and pendant for Kung Lao, for example. And it takes a long time to play through the various game modes that will give you that stuff. So I got into Monster Hunter, and I realized that every monster can be turned into 5 different outfit pieces, like a helmet, the slots are like hat, chest, like belt, and legs, right? And arms.
Head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
Yeah, but each monster gives you 2 options for each. So actually, each monster has 10 pieces of clothing. And you can mix and match, and in fact, you're encouraged to mix and match, and you can change the color. So it makes for this like really immense amount of potential visual customization for your character. On top of that, they have, once you get to a certain point in the game, they have this thing called layer armor, and they've recently introduced layered weapons, meaning that you can have a visual armor that is separate from the actual stats of the armor you're wearing. Meaning you can have any stats that you can, fight enough monsters to get, while still also looking exactly like you want the character to look. And that includes weapons now. Yeah, it is rad. And I'm still playing it because even though at this point, I'm finally getting to the point where I feel like I have almost every outfit potential possible, if not actually literally every outfit potential possible. I have to show them off, right?
Mhm.
So I get into hunts and I, kind of strut around, and then the monster kills me and everybody yells at me, and then I come back and I fight the monster, and hopefully get a new pair of pants out of the deal. But yeah, definitely, um, I should have realized that this is how it was going to go, because that is kind of the way to get me interested in a game long term, is if it has the ability, if you keep playing it, can my character get different hats and pants?
Mhm.
And if the answer is yes, then I'm on board at least for as long as that takes. Yeah.
Yep.
Very, very cool. My number one is a very, very old game, but if I hear the song a playing, then I've got to pull out a quarter and I need to play Ms. Pac-Man. This is a game that ever since it launched, I was addicted to, more so than just regular Pac-Man. I like the music, obviously. I like the cutscenes that they have in between Strawberry and Peach, or whatever it is. I think it's Strawberry and Peach. But it's a game that I can sit there and for a while, when I used to have to go to a laundromat to do my laundry, some of those quarters would find their way into that Ms. Pac-Man machine, and I could go through, a buck or two for an entire wash cycle or an entire drying cycle, depending on how I was playing that day. And it kept me occupied. I would love to find an original Ms. Pac-Man game that's in good condition and working, not a Galaga Ms. Pac-Man combo, not a one-up machine one. I'm talking about an original Ms. Pac-Man machine, because I love that game so much. It is a lot of fun. And if you don't remember Ms. Pac-Man, go track it down. Fun little puzzle game, maze game, where you avoid the ghosts and eat as many pellets as you can to clear the screen and get a high score. It's my number one game that I keep coming back to. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the number one game that you keep going back to? You can share your answer over on the Major Spoilers Discord. You can join the Major Spoilers Discord absolutely free and share your top 5 games that you keep going back to. And if you found some value in this, you found a new game that you might want to try, or you remembered, I haven't played that Game of Life in a while, then why don't you kick back a few bucks? $5 is all we're asking, $5 a month. You can find out more and become a patron today at patreon.com/Major Spoilers. We'll be back next time with another top 5. Why? Because everybody loves a list.
This podcast is copyright 2025 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.